Recording in progress.
Oh, it's you tonight? Well, I'll see you then, Ethan. Oh, that's new. All right, it is 6 p.m. We'll go ahead and get started. It is our February 9th, 2023 regular council meeting. Lori, can I get roll call?
Mayor Young.
Here.
Vice Mayor.
Here.
Councilmember Yambra.
Here.
Councilmember Brandon.
Here. Thank you. All right, the invocation and pledge of allegiance will be led by Vice Mayor Stone.
And I've asked for Pastor Paul to come and lead us in prayer, and then I'll do it.
Father, thank you for another day to serve you and to give you thanks, Father, for this village and for what it means to each and every one of us, Lord. Such an incredible place to live, raise our families. Thank you for the leadership that sits before us tonight, Father. I pray for each and every one of them that you would give them wisdom and direction and guidance. Thank you, Father, for every employee who works here and labors so diligently, Father, for the betterment of our town. For our public safety, Lord, our police and fire, and for the incredible job they do in providing such safety for we residents. And we thank you for them and for their safety. And I pray, Lord, you give us guidance and direction now as we prepare for this meeting tonight. We pray, Father, in unison for our men and women in uniform that are in very dangerous places tonight, Father, protecting us. We think of those families in Turkey and Syria, Father, with that horrendous earthquake. There's just no way we can even begin to imagine what they're going through. We pray for first responders there and just for the many families affected by that horrible, horrible thing. So, Father, go before us tonight and just give us guidance, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
Please stand for Pledge Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'd like to get a motion for approval of agenda with the addition of a letter of support to the Bureau of Land Management for consideration of adding them to the Great Florida Birding and Wildlife Trail. If we could add that to the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve in adding that to the consent.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. First up, our presentation tonight is about the Shoreline Stabilization Project by Peter Dewitt.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council members, for allowing me this opportunity to talk to you about this important project. I apologise in advance for talking quite quickly. There's a lot of information to go through. But we are at a critical juncture where we are requesting input from our local communities and stakeholders and the public in general on this project. And so this is a segment of a presentation that was given 2 weeks ago to a wider audience, and I've just kind of abbreviated to the key points for you. Okay, so just a quick reminder, the Outstanding Natural Area is a congressional designation that was made in 2008, driven by community support to protect and conserve and enhance 7 key values of the area. Those values are the historic, cultural, biological resources, the opportunity for recreation, education and science, and the scenic qualities of the environment. And this project is about striking a balance and a compromise between these to protect the shoreline and the resources present on these public lands for current and future generations. The issue at hand is the shoreline, since records really began in the 1950s, has been retreating. A study by FAU shows that this retreat happens at a rate ranging between 2 feet and 7 feet per year in most places, and that rate has been accelerating closer to those 7 foot per year averages in the last 10 years. Erosion is a natural process, and it is further kind of caused by dredging the intercoastal, as well as increased sea level, tide heights, and increased rainfall and runoff. It's also aggravated by public use of the shoreline. So we have been working with Taylor Engineering, who's very familiar with the area, in a project that was funded through the Great American Outdoors Act to come up with a solution to stop that shoreline retreat, protect the resources while continuing to provide for recreation opportunities. In fact, the project objectives relate directly to those things. We really want to keep that intercoastal waterway navigable, reduce the amount of sediment that gets washed into that from our shoreline, but also enhance the terrestrial and aquatic habitats and ensure that there are multiple opportunities both for marine-based and motorized and non-motorized boats, as well as pedestrians coming and visiting the site. The project encompasses the entire shoreline. Thanks to additional funding received through the bipartisan infrastructure law, we were able to extend the original scope of the project, and so it now extends all the way to the northern property line, which is within the municipal jurisdictions of Tequesta, as well as all the way around to the US 1 bridge. I'm just going to kind of dive into detail on some of these sections. Closer to the bridge and the museum building, we're looking at installing improved access to the shoreline, ADA accessible pathways, an enhanced and enlarged pavilion for environmental education programs, a more protected area for marine education, and then additional breakwaters that have become necessary after the Living Shoreline project, which has been very successful, but as with all things, adaptive management to changes in the environment is necessary along the way. As we go around the shoreline, we're looking at building a boardwalk, principally to stabilize the erosion control efforts that were completed by the military and the US Coast Guard and have been failing. That boardwalk is going to be combined with a replacement dock, and you can see in this graphic the old pilings of the dock and the approximate new kind of footings of that dock. It will be a floating dock, and it will include a slip with a boat lift for a public safety vessel. Further on the shoreline, you can see the full extent of that boardwalk. It is about 800 feet of boardwalk with widened pathways to allow people to view. This will further support our veterans and youth fishing programs, which occur monthly on the site, with expanded opportunities, as well as allow the visitors to get fantastic views of manatees and the Jupiter Inlet. As we go further, well, actually that's kind of what it would look like, an artistic rendering, and as you look up the shoreline, you'll see there's lots of wave breaks there in the water. Looking at that from a design perspective, those wave breaks will create and attenuate wave action and create habitat. There'll be plantings. We've actually partnered with the Mang organization to grow out 10,000 mangroves for this project, plant them, as well as salt marshes, salt grasses along the shoreline there. You'll notice that there are breaks in those rock wave breaks, and that allows boater access into segments of the beach, which is further stabilized with a terraced sheet pile wall, and on that terrace there is vegetation planted, and you'll notice on this there are 7 sets of staircases providing better access both for management purposes as well as for the visitors to get up and down without damaging the dune face any further. Kind of, again, an artistic rendition of what that might look like. You can see the staircases coming down to the water, still smaller spaces for boats, more secluded, and then the vegetation getting planted in behind those wave breaks. just a kind of cross-section of what that might look like. There is a fair amount of stone going into the water. In most places it's outside the intercoastal channel. We do have an easement to enter the right-of-way for the intercoastal as you get closer to South Beach Road Bridge. None of this project would interfere with navigation. As we get further up the shoreline, closer to the bridge and the popular snorkeling, swimming, water play destination there, we're looking at expanding opportunities for swimming with protected swim areas, so that kind of eliminates potential conflict between motorboat use. We are very conscious of the need to continue the protected waters for manatee movement, and so you'll see the use of pilings to exclude boats rather than just putting riprap and wave breaks the entire way around. That still lets the passage of wildlife through. And perhaps one of the most unique features is we do need a fair amount of sediment to complete this project, backfill, and so we're going to take the area that's currently greatly disturbed right by the bridge and a popular destination and expand the beach there, removing sand that will be used elsewhere on the project. Again, kind of shaves off hauling, delivery and material costs for us, and then creates a nicer beach with a protected area to really enhance that snorkeling, diving, swimming opportunities. We also have elements of artificial reef in this area to kind of further promote those recreational opportunities. North of the bridge, where it's currently intact mangrove swamp habitat, we're looking to ensure that stays that way, especially with these increasing high tides that we have through kind of the September, December period. And so we're looking at inserting those riprap wave breaks to attenuate wave action right along the shoreline and keep those mangrove habitats intact. In order to complete this project, we do have to complete a National Environmental Policy Act assessment of the impacts. This is where we disclose this, I think that was my next slide. It's where we disclose the impacts of this. Perhaps one of the more challenging things to explain to the public is this does not dictate the outcome of the decision. It is a document that allows us to inform the decision makers about what they're deciding one way or another. The decision is to move forward with this project, but we want to make sure our analysis accurately captures all that information, and so it's out there in the public sphere. So as you can see from the bottom of the slide, it doesn't decide which alternative we choose. There's only one alternative in this project, which is implementation of the shoreline protection. However, we are at the 30% design stage, and we are still accepting recommendations to modify those designs while we go through the permitting process. It doesn't prohibit us from taking any action, but of course we do want to do, as a public land management agency, what's in the best interests of the public and the communities we serve. We are in a public comment period, and this is the opportunity for the communities and the public at large to tell us whether we have analysed it right. And perhaps the most contentious issue under analysis is how this affects recreational boater use along the shoreline, and without question, it reduces opportunity from the current situation. We did a short study back last year and determined that in the period through January to Memorial Day, the average boater use across all time periods was 17 boats. The maximum boater use was 40 boats. The shoreline, as designed, would reduce the maximum opportunity to just 20 boats. So it is a reduction in boater opportunity, but it is not an exclusion of boater use. In order for people to participate, to have input into our analysis, to question the methodologies of the analysis and the design, we actually have an e-planning website which folks should log into. Links here, it comes up again on another slide, and then people can submit their comments, and they are due by the 26th of February, so we've just got a couple of weeks left to get those in, and people should focus on whether we have analysed the impacts correctly, and so the decision maker has that all at hand, and any unclear or missing information. We prefer to receive our comments through the e-planning website. It helps us immensely in coding them and responding to them, and any substantive comment received in this process will receive a response. I'm not sure why we get any asterisks on the HTTP, but that is the website, and I'm sure we can get that out to anybody who's interested in commenting, and please, if there's any questions, go ahead and reach out to me and I can help. So I appreciate your attention, and there is a much longer 50-minute version of this presentation that goes into greater details available on the BLM's Eastern States YouTube channel, and there's links to that that can be provided as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Any council comments, questions?
I mean, my overall question would be is how do you plan to educate the boating community on what they can and can't do without putting signs everywhere? Because we don't want to fill the pilings with signs, but do you have a plan yet for that?
Yeah, so we have some strategic signing, and we are working with our partners to get those messages out through construction. There'll be a process. Obviously, we don't want the pilings to become essentially mooring anchors for people. So it's a very valid concern, and we will move forward that challenge like we do all the other issues. I'm confident it won't 100% solve the issue, but we have thought about the placement of those pilings to ensure that if someone were to tie up to them, it wouldn't impede navigation in the waterway.
Okay. My personal advice, being part of the boating community, would be to take those visuals that you have with directional north, south, east, and west on them and put them out into the communities, reach out to different brokerage. So every time someone comes into a boat brokerage, put them at the boat rental places, have somebody put them on Facebook and Twitter and all that, and just try to really get it out so you can put that visual of where you're talking about, not just wording of north side of the bridge, because we have multiple bridges, so it could be confusing.
Awesome. Yes, great suggestions. Thank you
And
very
then
much.
my other question would be is if you're going to put all this money and effort into it, and you don't have to answer it now, but do you have a plan to regulate it other than relying on Marine PD?
Well, with the staircases down to the shoreline, it improves access. Unfortunately, the BLM, as people are very aware, does not have a law enforcement presence capable of being down here. So we intend to work with our law enforcement partners locally through contracts and agreements to help address public safety concerns along the shoreline there.
Good luck.
Thank you.
No, I mean, you've got this has been a challenge for many, many years, as you well know, and it's always about trying to strike the proper balance. And I think you guys, from what I see here, it looks like you've done a good job. We talked about this earlier. I'm happy to see the accommodation for a boat, because we have the only boat on this up in this area, and it is over at one of the condominiums right now. Being able to place it at this particular location and have it there as a permanent placement, I think would be a tremendous advantage for us. So I like the fact that you guys have included that in the plan. So I think overall it looks good. I agree with Councilwoman Brandon. Anything you can do to communicate this out to the public is going to be important. Obviously, you should utilize our resources here at the Village. I'm sure you will with Jupiter. I'm sure you will with other areas. So, hopefully people will take the time to actually see and read what the information you're putting out there. But I think you guys have done a good job with this.
Oh, thank you very much.
The old pilings that are there where the new kind of catwalk and further dock on them, are those coming out?
So in order to minimize the impact to the environment, we're leaving as many pilings that are existing in. They have elements of established reef on them. And in fact, the poured concrete from the 1970s, that boardwalk is intentionally being built to stabilize that, stop chunks of concrete drifting into the intercoastal, but otherwise be left in place.
My next question was, were you going to maybe remove some of that old concrete that's been...
No, we actually intend to terrace behind it, plant on top of it. People won't be able to see the concrete unless they get below the waterline. And again, there are established reefs down there.
And then I think there's a fence, but correct me, if you go up those 7 staircases, will they have the ability to come over to where that boardwalk is?
They will not. The fence will still be in place. But we have other plans, other projects to adjust access to the lighthouse compound, moving on into the future.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, this would be a ways out. Do you have any idea? You guys still have a lot more work to go. So you're at 30%, I think, design drawings right now. When would any construction commence?
My favorite question. We hope to be out of permitting this September. We do have a little wiggle room, just in case we aren't. We intend to actually go into contracting in the December-January period with intent to break ground on some elements of the project after the initial manatee migration. So we're looking at April-May of 24. And the question that no one's asked is, do we have funding for the construction? We have a majority of the funding for construction, but we are still working with the Florida Inland Navigation District and other partners to be able to do some of the bells and whistles on the project.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Peter, for coming tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to communications from citizens. Lori?
Yes, we have Buddy Freza.
Good evening. My name is Joseph Buddy Freza. I live at 366 West Riverside Drive. A few years ago, I was here quite a bit when they were proposing the elimination of 2 lanes on Highway 1. I came to 4 meetings here, 3 in Jupiter. I spoke at all 7 of them. I thought it was very dangerous to consider a bike lane on US 1, and now we seem to be having bigger problems. Just a step back, I'd like to thank you for the fact that you have, you do shredding twice a year. It's very helpful to me, except it didn't save me from somebody who found one of my checks. And I was at the bank most of the day today because somebody turned it into a fraudulent check and caused a lot of problems for me. But because of the traffic, I parked at our kids' gym, and I don't speak on behalf of my sons and impact on the gym. You know, I'm not concerned with what the bike lane has or hasn't done for the gym. I just think it's a terrible safety issue. I even counted 63 intersections from where alternate A1A comes in up the County Line Road, where cars have to pass through the bike lane to go down a street or into a business. And, you know, that's 63 places where a car could hit a biker. But people don't bike there. I hope you realize that. They don't use the bike lane. And it was a bad idea. Today, walking back, I parked at the gym because the traffic was bumper to bumper, southbound on US 1. So I walked over to the bank. On my way back, traffic's moving very slowly. I get through 2 lanes. As I go through the bike lane, 3 cars go zipping by in the bike lane where they're not supposed to be. And I'm just wondering, let me just ask, have you considered, you know, at the first meetings at the Baptist Church, they had this thing with landscaping and curbing, and a traffic engineer said, he said, he was retired, he said the number one thing in traffic planning is you never give up pavement. And that's what we did. How many years ago was it? 4 or 5? I mean, I lost track of it. But have you considered, actually Mayor Brennan said to my wife, it's only paint. And fortunately, we were able to get the plan changed from having curbing and landscaping to just paint. Have you talked about getting rid of the bike lane at all? And I mean, it's going to be a disaster once they close that. It was a disaster today. It was just horrible. So is that? I guess that's my. I mean, is that something you've talked about at all?
No, sir, it's not.
Okay. All right. Well, I think you should. Okay. I think you really should consider. It's just wasted space, and it causes traffic jams.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carol Taylor.
Harold Taylor, 13 Chapel Court. I read an article in a magazine a couple of months ago. Unfortunately, I missed the January meeting. And I'd like to talk about people that have the belief system, if it isn't broken, don't fix it. And some of them, I'm sure, would question what our water department does with their replacement ideas. Let me quote an article out of this magazine. It's about Jackson, Mississippi. The metropolitan area around Jackson is about 450,000. The city itself about 160,000. They have 2 water systems. One based on wells, apparently they had no problem with. Surface water, they had problems. Since 2017, they've had 7,300 line breaks. That's 1,200 a year, 3 1/3 line breaks a day. Let me read what's under a picture. Ongoing problems. Jackson's system has recorded more than 7,300 line breaks since 2017. The next article is in, actually, the message. The move follows a water crisis that left 160,000 people with unreliable low water pressure and even no supply for days last summer. So 160,000 people had no water, period. We ought to thank our Tequesta Water Department for having the foresight to do maintenance so this kind of a problem doesn't exist. They're doing a good job. They ought to be congratulated.
Thank you, Harold. All right, moving on, communications from council.
I am good.
I have nothing this evening.
I'll just add, Mr. Frez, that when the, 4 years ago when I got into council, that was part of the conversations. We talked a lot about the opportunity to repave or do something differently, recurb during that time 4 years ago. And during that time, in that conversation that we had multiple times with a lot of different people, it was decided it was not in the best interest for us to take the money that we had or did not have at the time to utilize to take on a project that is a state road. And so at that time, 4 years ago, there was no decision to move forward on that. So I just wanted to bring that up to you. So recently, we haven't had any conversations, but we did a long time ago. So.
Thank you. All right, I have nothing to add. Okay, moving on, agenda item 6, appointments to fill the 2 environmental advisory committee vacancies. And I do believe, Lori, someone did pull their,
Yes, Gary DeBlasio has withdrawn his submittal, so we have Jill Wenta, who is with us this evening. We have Maria Meese, if she's on Zoom, she had already planned to trip out of state, so Maria, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. And Graham Phillips, are you here? Okay, and I know Clay Davis is here. So you have 4 people to choose from. We have 2 vacancies.
okay, thank you. So I will ask each of you to come up, and if you could give us any relevant, applicable background that you have, and then any ways you think you can contribute to the EAC. And then also want to make sure you are aware that their meetings are held at 2 p.m. on Wednesday, so during normal business hours. Okay, and so I'll just go in order as it is in our agenda. Jill, would you like to come up?
Hi, everyone. Jill Wenta, Village of Tequesta, resident since '99. My background is landscape architecture. I graduated with a degree in landscape architecture. My husband is currently a landscape architect and certified arborist, so I would have someone to consult with. I'm very interested in where our village is going. I love the thought of how many parks we have around here and keeping it our little sweet village. Knowing that everybody wants to live here, but I would very much love to be a part of it. Anything else?
Any questions for Jill?
I have one. Because you guys are residents and you're in the
Yeah.
business of landscaping, architecture, has your family done anything in the village?
Yeah, Gerald has.
Is there
Oh my
anything
gosh.
in the
You're
village?
gonna ask me? He did the fire
Entrance-wise,
department.
or?
He did the fire department years ago
Okay.
when it was built. Other projects offhand, I don't know. I
Okay,
let
so
him handle those.
your family is familiar with our native plants
Yes.
and what
Oh,
grows
yeah.
well in this area?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
that's kind of where I was going with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're familiar with this part of Florida? Okay.
Yep. Anything else?
Any other questions for Jill? Thank you,
Thanks,
Jill.
guys.
Okay, next, Maria, and you're via Zoom. Hello.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, village attorney, and village manager. I am so sorry I can't be there personally, and I hope you can hear me okay.
Yep.
Thank you for reviewing my application. It is an honor to be considered. Let me introduce myself. So my name is Maria Claudia Mies. I'm a resident of the village of Tequesta. I was born in Argentina. I got my law degree in Argentina, and I practiced there for some time. And then I moved to Switzerland, and lately to the United States. I lived in Atlanta, Georgia for 15 years. I met my husband, Scott Mies, in Atlanta. We had a wonderful and busy time as a family in a lovely neighborhood. And then we moved to the village of Irvington in 2008. An idyllic place, very much like our beloved village of Tequesta, with a population of 6,000, similarly to the village of Tequesta. And the village of Irvington is part of the river towns, and they were really experiencing a lot of growth at the time, and every town was approaching development differently. So I decided to apply for the environmental board, and I had the honor to be a member for 3.5 years. There, I learned very much about watershed areas and buffers, stormwater runoffs, habitat modification, pollution effects on ecosystems and humans, and other matters affecting the preservation and use of the natural resources. And I believe the village of Tequesta and the village of Irvington have similar characteristics and concerns. So I truly believe I can be of help, and my experience can be of use to the community, and it will be an honor to be considered. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria. Any council questions? No?
No.
Okay. All right, and Graham is not here, so Clay?
Evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. Clay Damon, 414 North Cypress. I was here last month applying for the Planning and Zoning Committee, and I'm happy to be here again to apply for the environment. I am a native to the Jupiter and Tequesta area, grew up here. Actually, my parents' property that they still own is a truly special place in my heart. They back up onto Jonathan Dickinson State Park. So I spent my childhood with my brothers roaming around the park, having a ton of fun. So that is in my core of who I am. I also walk my dog every day with an extra bag so that I can pick up trash along the streets of Cypress Drive and Tequesta Drive here. I care about our environment. In addition, I'm just kind of a self-trained green thumb. Probably have 20+ species of palms, orchids, all that kind of stuff in my backyard at my place. So I care about our community. I want to get involved. I hope you guys afford me the opportunity to get involved. I know last month you spoke that those that are reapplying or those that are attempting to get involved again, you look favorably upon. So I hope that same courtesy is afforded to me. And thank you so much for the opportunity. Any questions?
Council?
I am just a little curious about the Disney Epcot's plant
Oh yeah,
certification.
well, you know, my ex-girlfriend and I, you know, I don't know, 3 years ago went for the plants and flower extra special thing that they do, and went up and went through their training for 2 days on a weekend, and got my Disney badge.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
It's actually pretty impressive. They got the plants and flower month that they do there, and it's pretty crazy what Disney does.
I was a little intrigued. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Okay, thank you, Clay.
Thank you.
All right, council, open it for discussion.
And we have two. How do you want to?
personally, I see value in individuals that have been here for a long time and have continued to be here, and so I see value in that, and that's where I would put more of my emphasis towards is all great candidates, and happy to get those candidates, but I see
Yeah.
value in people that have been here for a while.
I mean, I kind of already went through their information that they submitted, and did my own little research on them, and I kind of ranked them already, and then after hearing them, it just solidifies pretty much what they wrote and submitted on behalf of themselves. So, I mean, I kind of ranked them already.
And your ranking?
I would go with Mrs. Wenta first choice, then Mr. Phillips, then Mr. Damon, then Mrs. Meese.
Okay. Councilmember DeAmbra?
Clay, very happy to see you back here. And yes, I think enthusiasm to volunteer and assist the village, I think rates, in my mind, very highly. I had people ranked as well. Graham's not here, so Clay is. So the two people I had ranked were Maria and Clay.
Vice Mayor?
I would pick Jill and Clay.
Okay. I think Maria has really relevant experience, and she's been on environmental board. And both Jill and I'm always like this. If someone's not here, I usually don't consider them. So, and between Jill and Clay, I'm very much torn because I think they're both good stewards of our community. They both are very passionate and want to get involved. So, really torn on that one. So we're kind of on the deal breaker, I feel like, because Lori.
Well, I'm in favor of Clay for one, and then Maria was my other choice.
Mrs. Wenta was definitely on the high end of my list. I am disappointed that Mr. Phillips is not here, but I know his personal level with involvement in the environment, which is what really bumped it up for me. The fact that he's already hands-on with the environment and sees a lot of things. I mean, I'm not opposed to Mrs. Meese. I know that she has that background of working on environmental committee. Just the fact that it wasn't in our state, I don't know how that really pertained and applicable to Florida environment. It's much different than up north. So that's kind of why I was sitting lower on that. But Mr. Damon, I do love his enthusiasm. I am intrigued by his little certifications that he has, and he is going above and beyond. So I'd be open to that if we did Mrs. Wenta and Mr. Damon. Since Mr. Phillips is not here.
Okay. I do not want inaction on this item, of course, so I will go with Ms. Wenta and Mr. Damon as well.
I'll make a motion for Ms. Wenta and Mr. Damon to be nominated on the EAC board.
Can you get a second?
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to standing reports. Village Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. In case any of you are not aware of the Tequesta versus Town of Jupiter Island lawsuit, this was a case that is in the 4th District Court of Appeal, and the topic that significantly impacts all municipalities in Florida, including us, is how we handle certain legal advertising for ordinance adoption. Generally, state law says that you have to advertise at least once 10 days before the adoption of the ordinance, and put the time, when, where, and what in the legal ad. Sometimes you will get to second reading, that hearing will have been advertised, and for some reason or another, a decision is made to postpone the adoption of second reading to a time certain, to the next council meeting, for example, and there will be a motion to table of the adoption of the ordinance on second reading to, and then you specify the date and the time that will happen without having to re-advertise. That's been a very common practice throughout the state in ordinance adoption. So that happened in this case in Jupiter Island, and there was a challenge to a number of issues, but that issue was challenged. The Florida League of Cities, the Palm Beach County League of Cities, the Treasure Coast Regional League of Cities all filed amicus briefs in favor of Jupiter Island's position. Opinion came down from the 4th District Court of Appeal yesterday and overturned the circuit court which upheld the practice. So the 4th District Court of Appeal has essentially said that that is not a valid practice in terms of legal advertising. So the case isn't final. The leagues of cities and the town are considering next steps in terms of certification to the Florida Supreme Court on that issue. But as it stands, the 4th District Court of Appeal has ruled yesterday that that is not a valid advertising practice and that you can't just announce a time certain for that second reading. You actually will have to re-advertise it. It was not the outcome we were expecting from the local government side of the equation, but that is the opinion that was rendered yesterday. So we'll need to keep that in mind as we go forward in terms of, I can't think off the top of my head of any occasion that we've done that recently, but obviously the advice going forward will be to no longer use that practice of postponing to a time certain without another legal ad. That one is hot off the presses, and I wanted to keep you posted on that. That's my report for tonight, unless you have any questions about that matter.
Any questions? Okay, next, Village Manager.
As most of you guys know, the traffic issues this morning, and our staff has been pretty strenuous with getting with FDOT, try to get more notice out to our residents. Obviously, there was some issues this morning or last night with the contractor, which caused delays, which significantly impacted us. But we were on the phone with them trying to get more of that. So we hope to be able to provide more notice to our residents when those things come up. Obviously, it's going to be an inconvenience for us for a while, so we're trying to mitigate that. The legislation has started, committees are in progress, so we have filed 2 appropriations requests, one for Dover Ditch Project, which is part of the Loxahatchee River Project Initiative, and the Tequesta Park Design and Permitting. There are several bills that we have supported through the resolution, Florida League of Cities resolution. Some of those items are moving their way through committees. We will continue to take that stance that Florida League of Cities does and oppose, but there will be some opportunities for elected officials to reach out to the state representatives in opposition. So when those situations call, I'll be sending those out to council, and if we can ring the phone to make sure some of these things may not happen or pass, that'd be great. And then Nielsa had the opportunity, was invited over to the Beach Road Association this past week, and so we really appreciate the Beach Road HOA for allowing us to be over there and just speak about the process and the projects we have in works. So with that, you have my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Jeremy?
My only question, do we know if that traffic issue on US 1 going southbound is going to be a daily thing right now, or is it just something happened?
Well, the issue today was due to the contractor overnight. They're milling and paving, and so the equipment, I guess, broke, or they had some issues. So that caused it to go into the morning, which made it magnified everything. The lane closures and some of the things they're doing now are going to be ongoing. They're trying to do it now, establish new patterns for traffic, so it's not all happening when the bridge closes. Now all of a sudden we're doing everything all at once. So the issue today was, we'll say, unique, hopefully, but there will be some inconveniences from here all the way through the next 2 years with the bridge. So
'cause I was in it,
they're trying to do the
things.
lane closures and the change in lane patterns now, and so you're going to see those inconveniences.
Plus, I asked because we do have access to inform our bus drivers so they can find a different route to maybe not get the kids stuck so long.
I would suggest that, yeah.
I don't know if you've ever been stuck on a bus with 7, 8 children. It's for extra time. God help them. So yeah, just asking so that way we can navigate some of those as well.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, Police Department?
Good evening, Council, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Village Attorney, Village Manager, and Village Clerk. Hope you all are doing well tonight. For the month of January, the Police Department monthly service tasks, including having the police department vehicles calibrated, and attending the American Legion Award ceremony. Of course, many of y'all were there, and helped recognize Detective Loney and Canine Eric as the Officer of the Year. I think Canine Eric was the hit of the party, so luckily for us. For meetings, the chief attended the North End Police Chiefs meeting, the Tequesta, and we held a Tequesta Residents Action Committee this month. He also attended the Tequesta Friends of Public Safety meeting, senior staff meeting, the Cato's Bridge closure meeting, the Law Enforcement Planning Council meeting, and he also attended Rick Scott's roundtable discussion on fentanyl. He went to the Palm Beach County Chiefs Association meeting, where he was also sworn in as president this month. And finally, he attended the Palm Beach County City Managers meeting with Mr. Allen, and presented on blue suicide, which is suicide in the police force. Tomorrow at 10:30, we're promoting Luis Lopez. Sergeant Lopez has been with our department for 2 years now. Before coming to Tequesta, he was a 20-year veteran with NYPD, so we're very privileged to have him with us with his experience. Also, WCBS 12 did a nice story on the Tequesta Police Department Resident Action Committee and acknowledged our forward-thinking initiative on getting the community involved with the police department. They did a wonderful story for us, and we're very thankful for them. For the month of January, the Marine Unit had 18 contacts, 4 vessel stops, 1 written warning, and 1 cause for service error, the boat taking on water at the Jib Club that we were able to help CTO with. And for BLM, we had 36 contacts and 6.5 hours worked. So, and that completes my report.
Thank you. Any questions?
I do. A couple of weeks ago, I did a ride-along with one of the officers, it was a night ride, and I was pretty tired going into it. But the officer obviously works extremely hard, and you should take comfort at night knowing that those guys are out there, because they are running around, looking and doing everything they can to protect and serve you, the residents here. I made it to 4 a.m. and before I was like, I'm done. I can't do any more. But I was awake the whole time because we were constantly moving. We were constantly doing something. So kudos to him, and thank you for the opportunity, and appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Brandon, looks like you want to say something?
No.
No? Okay. All right, thank you.
No,
Thank
I
you.
agree with Mr. Stone. I mean, my ring camera picks up patrol at night when they go by. I think
Yep. All right, fire department.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Village Council, Mr. Manager, Village Attorney, Village Clerk. I'm going to start off by talking about some of the meetings. As usual, we have a pretty busy schedule, but I want to focus on Fire Rescue East, which we attended January 17th through January 20th. We sent a 2-man team up there for the entirety of the conference, but we also had additional members actually go up on the vendor day. Fire Rescue East is a conference that's attended by firefighters from around the southeast part of the United States. Obviously heavily attended by all the firefighters here in Florida. So several thousand firefighters. There's competitions, there's conferences, there's meetings on all kinds of issues that we face on a regular basis. There's training sessions. And then of course there's the vendor show. Things that we learn at these conferences are things that we can, bring back to our department. And in this case, I did send my team up there with a very specific mission, which was talk to the vendors and tell me when the supply chain issues are going to be over. Well, I can't tell you that I know that answer, even though we talked to several supply chain vendors. What I can tell you is it exists, and it exists across the board for us on multiple levels, whether you're talking about fire trucks, bunker gear, or tools that we try to purchase. However, we're aware of it and we're working on it. And again, it's these types of contacts that help us do that. One of my teams, specifically looking at bunker gear, actually was able to get new vendors involved. We were able to look at different things there. And instead of waiting a year or 14 months like we did the last time we were at bunker gear, our wait time is down to about 4 months instead of having to do that. So that's going to be beneficial to us in the future. The gear we're purchasing is top of the line. It's pretty much the same we've always been doing, same standard, just faster. So I like that. So that's why it's important that we attend these conferences, and that's why it's important that we continue to be there, participating and engaged. Operations, again, you've got multiple things there on your report. I want to focus a little bit on the vehicles. As you guys are well aware, we spent a lot of money to get in line and get these vehicles purchased. You'll note that there are a couple of delays. The ladder truck, I'm now expecting, they're telling me the end of April. I really wouldn't hold my breath on the end of April, but I do think that one's pretty close. So end of April, May, once we get it in, we're expecting about 6 weeks on just equipment mounting and then training. So we're still in pretty good shape on that. In my mind, despite their earlier telling me that it was going to be in February, I never really expected anything other than April, so that's always been my target. The engine that we purchased has been delayed 3 to 4 months, and this is going to push this into what they're telling me is November or December. Again, if I was going to bet on it, I'd say more like January or February. That's okay. We're in pretty good shape on our engines, and in fact, the delay there actually allows me to spread out the training, and so I think we're going to be able to take advantage of a little bit more time in between the delivery of the 2 apparatus. So we're going to, turn it into something good. The traffic management, I know that's been a hot topic around here. So just today, obviously, I was on the call today with FDOT and the powers that be that are working on the US 1 bridge. And we are, of course, working with FDOT and our vendors to install traffic management devices. That project is going to start next week. We're still, and this is the gray area, we're still waiting on the delivery of the equipment. But we are planning to go next week, so we're hoping everything arrives and we can do that. It should take about a week or so to complete. We are tying in with what FDOT is doing, and what FDOT has agreed to do is put in the preemption devices from US 1 all the way to Jupiter Medical Center. What we here at Tequesta have agreed to do is US 1 down the Tequesta Drive corridor. That'll give the fire rescue units, with their emergency signals on, the ability to control the lights. My team has also already started the training for those devices, so just as soon as the equipment arrives, the installers are ready to go, this will be up and running. So I'm confident that we'll make the deadline of the bridge closure. The Kados Bridge, the other bridge, I believe you guys are all aware it was closed twice, 2 Saturdays back to back. We did put a team over there with Jupiter and Lake Colony and work closely with Jupiter and Colony at their facility in order to do that. The 1 day did extend longer than anticipated, but again, it really did not affect us. We maintained the crew there, in part because they couldn't go home anyway because the bridge was closed, but we maintained them. The personnel announcements, I want to announce the hiring of a new firefighter, replacing one that had resigned in December. We hired David Terrell. He started with us on January the 9th. And I want to announce also that this past Monday, we actually conducted interviews for a new eligibility list. We had 12 people, or not interviews, excuse me, a written exam for the new eligibility list. We had 12 people take the exams. 10 have passed, and we'll move on to our oral boards, which will be the 24th of this month. Also, I will announce, and I believe most of you know, David McGovern will be appointed as captain as of Monday, and Jason Fawcett will be a new lieutenant as of Monday. So we're happy about that. Public outreach, of course, we did Tequesta Fest on January 7th. We as well were at the American Legion on the 21st, where we recognized current Lieutenant David McGovern as our Firefighter of the Year. So we were happy to be invited to that and happy to attend. And then the other thing, as you guys know, I get tired of hearing about Chief Medina and his Chief's Corner, so we came out with the Firewire. So we're pushing that out every Friday, just to kind of keep up a little bit. He's not here, but anyway, so we're doing that, and
it's about time. Please
enjoy the Firewire. I think the name is clever, not because I came up with it, but I did. But the pictures and all that, a lot of that's Elizabeth Spring. She works in our front office, and I think she does an amazing job promoting the fire department. So we're going to have different topics. Some of them will be public safety in nature. Some of them will be simply just announcements, what we're doing, what we're about. So enjoy that, and I think with that, I'll conclude my report.
That's why they say competition is a good thing, right?
Competition is a good thing. It's what the country was built on.
So I know police and fire and you two different departments push each other in good ways and challenge each other's. I think PD has been pushing their goal lines a little bit farther and hitting them. I think you've done a great job at pushing what you guys need as far as the new trucks and the vehicles and working with FDOT, whatever. You know, you might just be missing that one little thing that I keep saying to you every single year.
What's that?
Fire dog.
Fire dog. Oh.
Just throwing it out there. I throw it out there every year, don't I?
You never know when it'll stick.
That's what I
Throw
said.
things out there.
I do the same thing at home, and eventually it'll stick.
So one question. We're going to be in the need of a new rescue in about 3 to 4 years now?
Yeah, it's in the capital improvement plan. What are we in, 23? We're probably 3-ish years away from that.
And you're saying in your report that it's a 30-month lead time?
Yes.
So we
So
probably need to
that's-
start talking about.
Yeah, and I do believe we should start talking about that. If for no other reason, we need to get in line. The 30-month lead time on that has the potential to get worse.
Correct.
Of course, it has the potential to get better, but I think, like with most things, supply chain wise, we're kind of our own worst enemies. In that, what I'm saying is, you know, for example, Palm Beach County, when they go out to buy rescues, they might buy 7 or 8 a year.
Right.
When you tell Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, you can't buy them this year, you can't get them this year, they don't buy 7 or 8, they buy 15. So they place their order for 15, so now I'm further behind and I'm further behind. So, yeah, we do need to address that.
We're not the only
somehow.
we're not the only municipality that got a surplus or a stimulus
Right.
from COVID that is now utilizing that to get equipment. So
Yeah. Again, like I said, that, I think that's something we should discuss, perhaps a workshop or something.
thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
That's it.
All right, next up, utilities.
Good evening, Marjorie Craig, Utilities Director. Hopefully this one. That's just a case. I've been recovering from bronchitis, so. So just a few highlights. El Portal, you've been hearing a lot about that. We're at 100% design, and we'll be bringing that back, we expect, to the April council meeting. For award, we're planning on piggybacking on a contractor. Their contract is going to Palm Beach County in March. The FDP State Revolving Loan Fund, I've got an agenda item today for award of authorization to award the contract and negotiate the contract. And then we're going to bring back a water utility financial feasibility study in a workshop in February. We plan on it. With the cost increases, and you've heard Chief and Doug, you've heard many people talk about the supply chain challenges and the increase in costs. And this project came back at 60% increase in costs over the engineer's opinion. So we've been taking a hard look at all the costs for the projects because we don't want to stop. We want to move forward. But we have to maybe true up our baseline. So we'll be bringing that to you in a workshop and talk about where do we want to go from here. Looking at the dashboard, we've got, and as we've discussed, the monthly revenue is pretty sensitive because of just the scale there. And you can see revenues are up compared to last year. The active portal users are increasing. The revenue's on track. Cross-connection control just ekes up a little bit every time, still running that race. And the accounts receivable is a little bit higher this month. And that's because, or it shows, it's, 90 days, 180 days, but we have no turn-offs during December. We do not turn off people during the month of December. And with that, you're going to, fortunately or unfortunately, see me 6 more times tonight, so I'll cut it short. Any questions?
Council?
Water Weekly?
I was thinking the water tap,
There you
the
go.
water draw. I mean, I came up with five or, you never know. I've done it at other places.
Yeah. Thanks, Marjorie. All right, moving on to the regular agenda, old business. Item number 11, second reading of ordinance number 1-23, which is in relation to meeting requirements for our boards and committees. Keith?
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 1-23, an ordinance of the Village Council, Village of Tequesta, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances at Chapter 2, Administration, Article 1, Boards, Committees, and Commissions, creating an entirely new Section 2-2, meeting attendance requirements for appointees, to provide attendance requirements for appointees, and by creating an entirely new Section 2-3, virtual attendance limitations, to provide limitations on the use of virtual meeting attendance for appointees, and by creating an entirely new Section 2-4, eligibility for appointment, to provide minimum board, committee, or commission appointment eligibility criteria, providing that each and every other section, subsection of Chapter 2 shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, severability clause, authority to codify effective date, and for other purposes. This is second reading.
Thank you. Council comments? Nope. Public comment? Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on, agenda item 12, second reading of ordinance number 02-23, which is in relation to ordinance revisions related to the Beach Road Design Guidelines.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 0223, ordinance of the Village Council, Village of Tequesta, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances at Chapter 78 zoning, Article 1 in general, Section 78.4 definitions, to create a new definition for the term design guidelines. At Article 6, Schedule of District Regulations, Section 78.143, Schedule of Site Requirements, to revise the front and side yard setback requirements for the R3 zoning district. At Article 6, Schedule of District Regulations, Section 78.175, R3 Multifamily Dwelling District, to make reference to design guidelines as tool for completing development applications for properties in the R3 zoning district. And at Article 9, Supplemental Regulations, Section 78.289, location of accessory buildings, to provide additional regulation for accessory structures and buildings east of Beach Road. Also, Chapter 22, Community Development, Article 2, Community Appearance, amending Section 2282, general requirements relative to site plan review, to make reference to design guidelines as tool for completing development applications for properties in the R3 zoning district, providing that each and every other section, subsection of Chapters 22 and 78 shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing conflicts clause, severability clause, authority to codify an effective date and further purposes. This is second reading, and this ordinance has the adjustments to the side setback as directed by council at first reading.
Thank you. Council comment? Public comment?
Ed O'Sullivan.
Hi, I'm Ed O'Sullivan, 19950 Beach Road, Tequesta, the Claridge condominium. I'm representing them a little bit. I'm Secretary Treasurer. Now, why a Secretary Treasurer is talking about code enforcement. They stuck me with it because I've done a lot of restoration of buildings in the area since I retired. So I've got just a couple points to make. I think that the staff, I first got involved in this just a week ago when you came out to the Beach Road Association. And I think your zoning people, as small as they are, have done a fantastic job, because I looked at the old codes and I've looked at the new codes that they're doing. I think they're really moving forward. But as an old developer contractor, I've had to give my 2 bits worth on a couple things. One, and I double checked it, one of the things that you want to set your standard on for how you set the height of the buildings is by not what is usually standard, the mean sea level designation, but in this case, it's the top of the berm protecting the shore walls. The challenge with that is that every storm changes that. And usually what happens, I went and checked our Claridge, which was done in 1992, and the mean elevation of that berm and our storm wall was 19 feet above mean sea level water. Right now, it's 21.5 feet, because as the storms come in, the sand moves this way, the sand moves that way. It's been built up away from our wall higher. So setting a standard as that to decide the total height of the buildings is probably, well, for lack of a better word, it's kind of like building on sand. Mean sea level water since 1992 has changed about 3 inches. This has changed almost 2.5 feet. And if I was a developer, and I knew I was gonna build, and that extra 2 feet would give me an extra story of buildings, when I graded that, there'd be a real temptation to kind of pick it up. That's one issue. Second issue is the Claridge has 16 GIS parking spaces besides its 32 underground parking spaces. We find in our uses that challenges have changed over the last few years, where more and more people are coming down here full time. We find that we're using those spaces to at least 50 to 75% of capacity on a fair amount of the season. The newer buildings like Sea Glass and the ones they're proposing, they're coming up with 2 to 3 parking spaces. At Sea Glass it might work because you have the public parking across the street. At the other 2 newer buildings coming, when I talked to Nilsa, we have a concern as just people living there, there's no place to park all these people. There's no place to park the guests. Just assume that, for example, for one of the newer buildings, it's 34 units. You've got 3 guest parking spaces. Where is everybody else going to park? There's no flow off down Beach Road like there is in front of Coral Cove Park. So that's just a concern that we would raise as a concern as you go through that. I think that really needs to be looked at very carefully. And finally, the thing that I have to talk about.
Sir, if you could, your time is up, if you could wrap it up.
Pardon me?
Your time is up, the 3 minutes is up. If you could just wrap it up, that'd be great.
Okay, well, I'm on my very last thing.
Okay.
One of the things you've done, there's 3 buildings on the island that DeVosta did where the garages are separate. They're not underneath the buildings. What this does is it lets me take my 32 single-story garage and put another story on it. We have all kinds of excess land at the Claridge. What this does is allow us to probably add another tower on our property. I don't know if we're going to do that, but when you add that second story of parking, I understand for the smaller buildings it might work, but what it does for those 3 buildings is it gives them a tremendous opportunity to add higher towers to their buildings and give an even more density to that corridor. I think that needs to be looked at very carefully. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. No, any other public comment? Okay. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Great. Item number 13, consider approval of agreement for demolition on the pavilion in Tequesta Park.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. Council actually approved this item last month at the last council meeting. The reason I'm bringing it back to you, the procurement platform that we use, contractors basically fill out electronic. We just requested a quote, so the contractors enter all their information just electronically. I wanted to make sure we had a contract in place so we could hold the contract to some terms and conditions. So that's basically what you have in front of you right now.
Council comment?
Couple questions. If this is approved, Doug, when would you anticipate, because I think this has to be permitted through Martin County, when would you anticipate this would actually be done?
As soon as, if council approves this tonight, we'll issue this contract to the contractor and he'll move forward with the permit process. It could take 4 to 5 weeks to obtain a permit.
The reason I ask is this. While we did pass a use policy, we have not yet made a decision about whether we would have a league that would be sponsored or operating out of Tequesta Park. And we have a group, as everyone's aware, who has indicated that if they were approved, and I know we go through an RFQ process on this, that they would like to come in and renovate both the pavilion and the concession stand. And they would make the investment and they would provide all the work and materials, et cetera, which would make this, a usable feature of the park. And while we are looking to procure funding to upgrade Tequesta Park consistent with what we did with the charrette, we have no idea when that could happen. I mean, that could be something that could be 3, 4, 5, 6 years out in the future. We have no way of knowing at this point in time. In the interim, if this group were to be approved and if they were to renovate this would becomes an asset for us. So I made this suggestion last time. I'm going to suggest it again. I'd like to see us defer any action on this until we have the new council seated and we are actually able to consider whether we do want to have a league operating out at Tequesta Park, and if so, if they come forward as they have indicated they would, with a plan to renovate and make the investment in this, I think that would actually be a benefit to the village and would save us the $27,000 that we're talking about spending to demolish this structure at this time. So that's my suggestion. That's what I'd like to see happen here.
Any other council comment?
I have, just for the record, I have nothing against concession stands. I'm an active member at other sports fields where concessions are very much welcomed. I know us parents love getting snacks and having access to beverages for our children and anyone else using the fields. Reason why I sit with okay with this is because anything that we do to these fields, no matter what sport it is, I'd like to see it as close to the master plan as possible. And if we were going to add concession, I'd rather look at us building a new one as close to where it would be in the master plan and including all the different sports, maybe contributing to it to make it worthwhile for everybody. That is all.
This facility is not part of our master plan that we invited the whole community to get involved with and got a lot of feedback on, so as a result, I'm in favor of moving forward.
Yeah, I'm in favor of moving forward purely from a safety aspect. It's been deemed not structurally sound. And, you know, I've talked to people in a concession stand. Physical structure is not 100% required for leagues to use the field, so. Okay, any public comment? Oh, do you have something else to say? Public comment? All right, can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, moving on, agenda item 15, consider approval of a contract with B&B Underground Construction for water main replacement project 1 and 4.
Good evening, Marjorie Craig.
I'm sorry.
Am I too soon?
Am I wrong?
We have 14.
I'm sorry.
Resolution.
Marjorie,
I'll step back.
I messed up. Okay.
Next.
Sorry, guys. So new business 14, resolution number 05-23 in regards to regulation of pesticides within the village.
At the January 30th workshop, the council heard a presentation from the EAC. As part of that presentation, the EAC is asking for this resolution. Currently, the state preempts the village from regulating application of pesticides within the village, I guess within the state. Due to our unique location, the EAC recommends we ask the state of Florida through this resolution to remove the preemption and allow us to regulate the use of pesticides. If approved by the council, staff is directed to provide a copy of the resolution to the governor of the state of Florida, elected officials of the town of Palm Beach, village of North Palm Beach, city of Palm Beach Gardens, town of Juno Beach, town of Jupiter Inland Colony, and all members of the Palm Beach County Legislative Delegation.
Any council comment?
Jeremy, would we be including some members of the Martin County since they spill over, like Representative Snyder?
If you choose to do that, that was just the way that it was proposed to us, but if you think that's appropriate, we can do that too.
Well,
It's federal.
Pardon?
Snyder's federal, right?
No, he's state.
No.
He's
No,
state.
he's state. Yeah, I think we've got both the state senator and Representative Snyder cross over from Martin to Palm Beach County, so I think we should include them
Okay.
as well.
We can do that.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of sending it to them. And then I see Mr. Bradford is here, so he might be able to answer the question. What the cities that are listed to send it to, was the point to get them to also join in? Because, I mean, I look at Jupiter, and Jupiter does have some agriculture, so maybe something like this doesn't apply to them where there's municipalities like us that don't have agriculture. So I kind of just want to understand the list of the cities we're sending
All
it
of the
to.
cities listed except Jupiter Inlet Colony have an environmental committee. That's why they were selected to receive a copy. And it's fine to expand that list if you want to, like Mr. DeAmbra has suggested.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, any other council comment?
I'm fine with adding Representative Snyder on it.
Okay. All right, any public comment? Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, now we're on 15. Marjorie, come back up.
Hi, good evening. Marjorie Cray, Utilities Director. And I have with me Ben Thecko with Holtz Engineering, Consulting Engineers. We're here to talk about, or ask you to consider approval of authorization of award and execution of a contract to B&B Underground Construction for Water Main Replacement Program 1 and 4 for $3,560,490. So this project was designed and then bid out in November 15th. We had a pre-bid meeting and then a bid opening on December 15th. So Holtz Engineering provided the review of all of the documentation received from the bidders. We received two bids, and they were fairly close in number, as you can see they're listed. And they provided us with a letter of recommendation to award it to B&B, who is the lowest responsive and responsible bidder in this case. It was much higher, the bid was much higher than the opinion of probable cost. As you know, this has happened everywhere. But to talk a little bit about the award and the review that was conducted, we have Ben Thecko here, if you're willing to listen, if you have any questions.
Hi, my name's Ben Thecko from Holtz Consulting. Just to give you a little bit of background, at the 90% design at the end of 2021, is when we came up with the cost estimate, and we had to do it at this time to submit to the state revolving loan program to get funding for this project. So this was at 90% design about a year ago, and that's what our cost estimate was based on. As you know, the project was bid a year later. In the last 12 to 18 months, there's been, quite a volatile construction industry in terms of prices for construction. We've reviewed the bids. The prices we had originally, they weren't off base. We felt at the same time that the prices that came in weren't too far off of what we were also seeing recently. And our recommendation would be, it's up to you guys whether you want to award the contract or not. But if it's not awarded, you run the risk of paying even more later, based on conditions of the market. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions you guys may have.
Council comment?
Well, you just hit on a question I wanted to ask. There's been some discussion, obviously, with the Fed Chairman Powell the other day talking about some deflationary elements coming into play in the economy, and it's been referenced particularly in some of the commodities. It's uneven, I recognize that, but do you see any likelihood at all that there's any opportunity to push back with this particular contractor and see if we can procure? I mean, it's been, what, 3-4 months since that bid was provided. Push back to see if we can get any further reduction in the price, or do you think this is as good as we're going to get right now?
I honestly don't think that's a possibility, because one of the other problems you have is all these contractors are very busy, and that plays into the prices that we got. We only had 2 bids. We were hoping we would have more, especially on a project of this size. You have about 2 miles of pipe. As busy as they are, I don't see that happening. There may be some opportunities once somebody's under contract to look at maybe different installation, directional drill versus open cut, where it would make sense, and there could be some savings there. But to have those discussions, they would have to be under contract to.
Well, I guess it goes with what the Vice Mayor said earlier about all the infrastructure money and all the money that was passed down into the state and municipal coffers, and everybody was behind on infrastructure work, and everybody's trying to catch up. So I understand what you're saying. Okay, thank you.
Is there any escalation prices in the materials that for some reason this project is delayed?
No, the unit prices that are in the bid would be for the duration of the contract. There's no allowances or anything in the contract that would let them escalate the prices.
I will say one of the concerns, I'm glad we're moving forward, I'd like to continue to move forward. How much impact would this have on traffic along Tequesta Drive, the roads?
It would have impact. You know, the project would move along. It's along Country Club Drive and Tequesta Drive.
My understanding is that there might be one lane of traffic out at one time, but that it wouldn't be blocked completely.
Okay.
That's my understanding of the MOT.
Yeah, with the bridge being down, I just think that's going to be problematic. And get ready, guys. Have fun. Yep.
You don't want to stay for that?
Nope.
Councilmember Brandon, any comments?
No. I mean, I
Just-
agree with everything you said.
2 quick questions. You kind of touched base on one of them. I was curious if any value engineering had been done to try to realize some cost savings, but it sounds like, because I know like boring sometimes is more expensive than open trenching. Is that can be done after we go to contract, and is that going to be done after we go to contract?
So value engineering typically is done before the project is bid, in my experience. And we certainly will talk to the contractor once it's awarded, but we've been in the cone of silence during this time. But if you have any enlightenment that you might have for...
Yeah, well, when we were in design, we met with village staff, utility staff, and we looked at the areas where it would make sense to do directional drill versus open cut. One of the issues with doing directional drill on the whole project is going across the streets, you don't have enough room to do that. And then you also have to connect services to the houses, which with a directional drill, you're much deeper, so you're gonna be opening up a larger trench. So we tried to balance, you know, where it made sense to do one versus the other, and we met with staff about that. But, you know, moving forward, if the contractor feels that it would be, they would be better served by doing directional drill or open cut in an area, and it could be a cost savings to the project, that's definitely something that we can consider.
We'll be looking for things, for sure.
Okay, because I know a lot of times value engineering is done after you get the bids because it's way over budget in this case, right? So yeah, I would highly recommend and hope that we do that after the fact with the contractor to try to realize some cost savings there, because this is 60% is significant. I know there's material increases. For years now, there's been material increases and supply chain issues, but 60% is pretty significant. And then I'm not clear on the contract type, because it's a blank contract in the backup. Is it a unit price with a not to exceed, or is it lump sum? Because it's a large dollar amount. Lots of times, you know, unit price contract is better because you're paying actual cost, but then the higher the dollar amount is, the more risk you have there. So what type of contract is it?
It's unit price.
Unit price not to exceed.
Not to exceed.
You're saying both of them. Unit price not to exceed.
Well, it's a set amount with unit prices.
Yeah, with unit prices established.
It's a fixed amount.
Yeah. Okay, so that's how the contract will
But
be
the
written.
unit prices are established, so if we go back to the contractor.
Right.
And we do one versus the other, it would be based on that unit price.
Right, so they're gonna bill at that, but there is a not to exceed, there's a cap.
Mhm.
Okay, great. All right, any other council? Any public comment? Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item 16, consider approval of Jupiter Environmental Laboratories Agreement.
Hi, I'm Marjorie Craig, Utilities Director. And this contract is to contract with Jupiter Labs for some of our laboratory sampling, all the analysis that we're required to do as a part of the Safe Drinking Water Act. We have weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually sampling for our water system.
Council comment?
I have not related to this, but I have just a kind of an offhand question. There's been some articles recently talking about the presence of chlorine in water and how it binds to minerals in the human body and causes a depletion. I don't know the veracity of these. I've read a couple of different articles, and they came from legitimate scientific sources. I'm wondering if that really is an issue, and at what level are do chlorine levels pose a problem or a risk? I know we've got to have it, to make sure the water is decontaminated, so to speak, but are we doing everything we can to operate at the lowest possible levels and at the same time keep the drinking water safe?
That's a good question. And if you have any articles you'd like me to review, I'd be happy to review them.
Okay, I'll send you a couple.
And I mean, as you know, chlorine has been one of the disinfectant has been one of the most revolutionary things that's ever been invented for drinking water, for pathogens and the plague and so many things it's helped prevent. But in the case of the village, we use, our disinfection method is chloramines. So chloramines is, we don't just use free chlorine, which is just typically a higher dose of chlorine. We use chlorine touched with ammonia. So when you touch it with ammonia, then you don't have to have as high of a level of chlorine in the water, and it stays in your water distribution system longer. So there are other things about chloramines that you have to typically do a typical free chlorine burn annually. You have to make sure you're monitoring your distribution system for any buildup of things. So using chloramines can cause other possible issues, but it's a great disinfection method, and it also is a benefit to what you're talking about. It requires a lower dose of chlorine.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So,
any other council comments or questions?
No, I'm fine with city water.
I drink it.
Hey, I get sent to the middle of nowhere in the woods with water literally coming out of the ground. I will take our village water any day.
I'm very proud of our water.
Just a quick question. The it references back T tests, and I know on the consent agenda there was Marquis, I don't know if I'm saying that right, to training to do that in house. But is there?
I thought you might ask that question because so in the past the village was NELAC certified. So NELAC certification means that you're certified to conduct tests, laboratory tests in-house. This is a benefit for a lot of reasons for BACT testing because you can turn around the testing faster, and you can have, rather than paying a premium, like if you have a service line break or something, and you have to, because you have to have 2 consecutive BACT tests in order to put your water pipe back in service once you have a break. And if that happens over a weekend, that means your customers are out of water, over the weekend. So this can allow you to put your residents in service much faster. We lost our certification at some point. I don't know the history, and it's one of the only times I could probably get away with saying I wasn't here. I'm the new person. So we're going for our certification again. And yes, our lab costs will be reduced in the future. Probably you're not going to see that cost reduction in that first year because we're paying some money to make sure our application is correct and that we have all the protocols. I just ordered a standard methods book to make sure we have everything in place ready to do for the NELAC testing and being certified. So that's going to be some cost there.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
But yes, it will be a cost reduction in the future.
Okay, great.
So we're excited about it.
Yes. Okay, any public comment? Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, agenda item 17, consider approval of American Water Chemicals Agreement.
And I'm just coming up here again. Marjorie Craig, Utilities Director. This agenda item, we're requesting you to consider approval of an anti-scalin for use at the water treatment plant. And we're piggybacking the City Clearwater's contract. And anti-scalin, as you probably can guess, is used to prevent scaling and fouling of the membranes in the RO plant.
Council comment?
Any questions?
Public comment? Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Marjorie, don't go anywhere. Item 18, consider approval of an agreement with Duval Ford.
And this is where I'm going to have, just to break it up a little, have Doug come up and talk, because we really, this is one of those cost increases that just kills you. We budgeted $38,000 for the vehicle, and it came at $52,000. So we pulled it back, we took a look, see if we could buy one off
Any means
yeah,
necessary.
any means. I'm going to let you talk about
Yeah.
it, because you've worked with
Yeah,
us on this.
We've gone through this with several departments, trying to find vehicles. The chief touched on it tonight, trying to find vehicles for the fire department. So we're in touch with several different dealerships, just trying to find vehicles. Let's just say the city ordered a vehicle, and for some reason they've canceled the vehicle. That's how we found vehicles for the building department. That was after we had a vehicle on order for about 8 months, and then they canceled the order. So when Marjorie brought this forward last month, I jumped in and said, hold on, I might have a vehicle at a more affordable price, rather than waiting another 8 months and risking the vehicle never goes into production. So across the board, there's a minimum price increase of $10,000. You may drive around and see dealerships with vehicles on the lots. They cannot sell that to the cities. Those are retail prices only. So unfortunately, that vehicle that we thought we might have an opportunity to purchase fell by the wayside, and Marjorie's back with, right now this is the only option. There's literally a 2-year wait. Cities are waiting 2 years right now for a vehicle. So we're doing the best we can to find them. Hopefully in April of 2024, we might see some relief. That's what they're telling us. So that's where we're at.
Okay. Council comments?
And this is replacing a vehicle, this isn't adding to the
It's
vehicle.
not adding a
fleet.
vehicle, it's replacing a vehicle that's 211 Ford F-150. It's more than 11 years old, approaching 95,000 miles, and approaching costly repairs. And downtime, so when the vehicles don't work, they can't get the work done, so that's,
Any other council
I don't
comments?
have extra.
I do appreciate the month delay to try to, look harder to see if we can find something a little more affordable. I know our taxpayers appreciate that effort.
It was
for
worth
sure.
waiting to see if we could reduce the prices.
Yeah, I also want to add, we have 6 vehicles that we're going to be selling, used vehicles, and that market is really good right now, so we're hoping to recuperate some funds through that process.
Great.
That'll be good.
Okay. All right, any public comment? Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a question real quick? When you sell those vehicles, if it's a water truck or a vehicle, does that go back into the water fund, or does that go into general fund?
It goes back into the general fund. Yeah.
Okay, all right, moving on, agenda item.
That's not correct. If it's a water vehicle, it'll go back to the water fund.
Right.
Whatever
Because
fund
it's
is
an
for,
enterprise,
so
yeah.
it goes to that, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'm only correcting you because Jeff's correcting me back there, so.
It's a village effort. It's a village effort.
I'll be watching.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, agenda item 19, consider approval of a piggyback agreement with Palm Beach County for Shreve Chemical Company.
Yes, and this is another water treatment plant chemical, sulfuric acid. So we're piggybacking Palm Beach County, as you mentioned. It's used in the RO process.
Council comments or questions?
No, I feel like I'm back in chemistry class.
Any public comment?
I love it, so.
I'm
Can I
glad
get a-
somebody does.
Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, agenda item 20, consider approval of Inliner Solutions piggyback agreement for stormwater drainage pipelining repairs.
Yes, so David brought to our attention some critical needs for some stormwater pipelining. You may recall we did some of this last year as well. We'll be using some ARPA money for this one. And these pipes, and if you look through the memo, there's some pictures that show how degraded it is in the agenda item. It's definitely, we don't want to wait on this until the next rainy season. So this particular contract, we're piggybacking, and we looked at several different options to try to reduce the prices. We actually had gone with another, we thought we would go with another one, but we found this one that was less money. So we had them bid on it. It was about 40-something thousand less. So we were bringing this one forward.
Council comment?
My only question, and I don't think you were here yet, Marjorie, I think Matt was here. They did something with the piping on Gulfview and Bunker and the drainage that went out to the river. Is this the same pipeline?
You know, I'll have to get back to you on that.
I was
can
just curious
check.
if it's coming up again and we're doing more maintenance on the same pipe location again.
My guess is no, because I would think that David would tell me that it was, you know, hey, it failed,
It was in that
even though we
area.
did something.
Okay, I was
So
just curious.
I'll check on that, though.
Any other council comment?
You see some of the photos, one has sand in it. I'm assuming that gets cleaned out prior to the liner going in it?
I'm sorry? I didn't hear what you said.
There's a photo that's showing some debris or sand off of a bunker.
In the pipe.
In the pipe.
Oh.
I'm assuming that gets cleaned out prior to
Yes.
the liner going in.
Yes.
And what's the lifespan on these liners?
I believe the lifespan is, it gives you another 25 years. But that's off the top of my head after being in the industry a long time, so I just have to.
And I see some photos look like they're in a residential home of some of the pavers dripping down.
Yes.
Would that be remedied or repaired during this process? Are we doing any of that?
I had to look at it to see, but we would restore it to,
A little bit further down.
I think typically what we do is we allow them to pick up the pavers, and then we fix it, and then they can restore it because they've put the pavers on our right-of-way, on our easement. Yeah, it's up to owner. So
Okay.
you're actually, but typically that's how it's done.
Okay. Any other council comment? No? Public comment? Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Marjorie. You're
Thank you
done.
very much.
All right, agenda item 21, consider approval of the piggyback contract with Palm Beach County, small paving and construction contract.
Good evening again. This agenda item is a recommendation to piggyback the Palm Beach County small paving and construction contract. The contract was competitively bid. Palm Beach County received 5 bids, and they awarded the contract to 2 contractors, Winn & Sons and Saffold Paving. They were the 2 lowest and most responsive contractors in the bid. Winn & Sons and Saffold have agreed to extend the pricing in the Palm Beach County contract to the Village of Tequesta. This contract is based on light item pricing, and it has an established range of estimates and quantities. We're leveraging Palm Beach County's work and quantities. For instance, let's say we're replacing 2,000 linear feet of concrete. Very difficult to get a contractor to come in here and bid on that project because we only have 2,000 linear feet of concrete. However, if they do come in and we've gone through this exercise, we get charged premium rates. So we're taking advantage and leveraging Palm Beach County contract because they have $10 million worth of work, and the contractors are bidding on a range of quantities with a fixed unit price. What I like about the contract as well with the line item pricing, everything is inclusive in the unit pricing. It includes the labor, the materials, it includes the MOT, mobilization, everything's inclusive in that price. So there's no price escalation. The other major benefit as well as the contract is in place for 15 months. It's very difficult right now for contractors to hold pricing. Labor prices have increased 10 to 12%, and material prices as much as 17%. The previous contract that we had, just to give you a reference, to install 35 square feet or greater of 6-inch concrete was $45 a square yard. It's now at $72. The cost for the contractor continues to increase, but they have to adhere to this price for 15 months. So we're not bringing a project forward to you tonight under this contract. We're simply requesting consideration for approval of this contract, and then we will bring back contracts, anything over $25,000, back to the council for consideration.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Council comment?
The only question I have, Doug, is in terms of their capacity. So if we have something that comes forth, are they in a position to respond in a reasonable period of time to get that work done?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
If we bring forth a project for them to do, are they in a position to be able to respond and get that work done within a reasonable time frame?
We have a good working relationship with Wayne & Sons. That's one of the contractors. They typically meet our needs. I mean, they have $10 million worth of work with the county. Saffold Paving, I've never worked with them before. I have met with them. They're interested in the project, but I've issued both contractors a work order to provide a proposal based on the unit pricing and the contract to see where they're both at. I've given them quantities and just sort of a look ahead. Let's see where they come back with the pricing. I can tell you, though, even though Saffold was one of the low bidders, their asphalt pricing is substantially higher than Wynn & Sons. Wynn & Sons is at $178 a ton, and Saffold is at $247. So I would be looking towards utilizing Wynn & Sons for any asphalt work that we have, any road work.
Yeah, my concern wasn't so much the pricing, because I know you're on top of that. My concern was, because you just mentioned about the challenges that the contractors have in terms of, and the amount of work, this was referenced earlier, about the amount of work that they have. So that was, my question simply was, okay, if we come forward with this, for us it may be an important project, for them it's a small project.
Correct.
Are you confident that they can respond in a timely manner to get the work done? Because, or are there resources going to be being pulled in other parts of the county or whatever?
I'm confident that Wynn & Sons can fit us in the schedule. We'll see what Saffold can do.
Okay.
But I've
But
had
you
a
have the two
long
to
history
work
with Wynn & Sons. They've performed very well here in Tequesta. A lot of our road projects and sidewalk projects on Country Club Drive, and the last 2 years, all our road projects. So they're very responsive.
Okay, all right, great, thank you.
There's three levers in construction. There's price, quality, and speed.
Yeah.
You can pick which one you want to pull, right?
Yeah.
And so if they're not readily available, then we can go somewhere else, but you're going to pay more for it, right?
The nice thing about Wynn & Sons, too, they have a crew that we get all the time. They typically work down in Wellington, and they break away. They come here and they go back, so they're very good with us.
Is this the first time where we actually have two contractors that we can select from that the county has approved? Usually it's just one, if I remember correctly.
It actually, no, they've had several before a few years back.
Okay.
Last year was just Wynn & Sons.
Wynn & Sons, right.
But this is the small contract. They have another larger contract, which would include stormwater pipe and fittings. That's coming out Wynn & Sons is recommended for award on that contract. That goes before the county commission in March.
Okay.
That's a contract that we'll most likely use for the El Portal project that Marjorie mentioned, for the stormwater and the road improvements.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, any public comment? Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. All right, moving on to any other matters, council?
No, ma'am.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay, just two things I wanted to update you guys on. We are trying to get the chamber's support to add our DeQuesta Park appropriation to their prosperity agenda, which is basically their legislative agenda for this year. It's late, they're voting on it tomorrow in the governmental affairs call. Noel is trying to get us on. The Dover Ditch Project is already on their list because they're supporting the, all nine projects as a whole. So fingers crossed on that. tomorrow. And then also there is a PFAS lawsuit that cities are joining that Keith is looking into. I don't know if it's relevant to us. Keith, I don't know if it's anything you can give an update on tonight, but I just want to let you know that that's out there and we're looking into it.
I had a conversation with one of the attorneys that's handling the class action litigation. It's up in the federal court in South Carolina, but actually the first test case, if you will, is coming out of the city of Stewart, and that's scheduled for this summer. However, I did have a good discussion with him, told him what our issues were. He gave us some homework in terms of looking at some of our wells and some of our practices, and I've spoken with the village manager about getting that information, and that's in process right now.
Thank you. All right, can you get a motion to adjourn?
Let me give you one thing real quick. The 22nd, we have moved the meeting, the town hall meeting, to the village chambers from the rec center. This will allow us to help stream, record that conversation. It's not going to be a meeting of council. Council can be present, but you guys won't take any action or really any discussion. And then we still have some room for the Residence Academy. We have a few openings. The deadline for that is March 8th.
Lori, some of the candidates that applied for the EAC, were they given an opportunity to join that as well? Send it to them.
Reach out to them. I did give the planning and zoning board the number they want to take the application.
Okay.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good meeting.
You won about 7 minutes.
Oh.
7 minutes. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I love it. Doesn't happen very often.
I was about to draw this out. Another 7 minutes.
Why would you do that?
Right? That is-
It's worth a cup of coffee.